All right, sales warriors. Hey, this is Jason Forrest, and let's talk about how to sell through rising interest rates. So, we all know that buying a home is the third most emotional decision or experience that a person will ever go through next to life and death, which is number one. Marriage and divorce is number two, and buying a home is number three. So, take the current economy, the crazy high record inflation, and now on top of that, how interest rates now have gone up, 2 points, recently. Then people, the customers and prospects have a lot on their mind. And so, what I want to do for you today is I want to share with you some practical, tactical tips on how to sell through rising interest rates. I'm going to teach you 6 specific things that you can do. Now, I'll tell you that all of these have been field tested by our clients who we've taught this material to. So, as a private client, you get access to these leading edge concepts before we bring it to the public. And so, our clients definitely can attest that this stuff is absolutely working. These strategies are working. And so right now, this is a little background. So my background's in neuro linguistic programming. So my wife and I are one of about 2,000 master practitioners. Neuro is brain, linguistic is our speech pattern. And what's been proven is that the way that we speak is a window into how we think, and how we think drives how we feel. We feel love in our heart, or we feel fear, which drives our behaviors. Do we engage or do we react? Which of course drives our results. And so we're practitioners in that. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we're constantly studying the top performers in any industry and figuring out what separates them from everyone else. Let me put it in simple terms, right? A top person in new home sales, they just think differently than everyone else. They say different things than everyone else, and they do different things than everyone else. And so we're obsessed with studying what the top thinks about, says, and does. It compares to what the average person thinks, says, and does. Now, let me tell you a cool story. So one of our we have 3 children, Mary Jane, Saunders, and Elizabeth. And Saunders is our oldest, and he's 14 years old, and he's been picking up soccer. And so one of the things that we're always trying to work with our kids is to give them these leading edge strategies that we didn't learn until later in our life. But I want him to be mindful of his thoughts. So what is he thinking about when he plays soccer? And so, I'm like, Saunders. So, right now he's playing a little weak. He's playing a little scared when he first started. And he's not really in the game. And so I'm asking, hey, Saunders, so tell me, what are you thinking about when you're out there? He's like, Dad, I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, what am I thinking about? I'm just like playing soccer. And it was interesting to have this conversation with Mary, and we kind of realized that most people probably aren't aware of their thoughts. Most people aren't kind of consciously aware they even have thoughts of what's really happening. Well, those thoughts, again, are driving how we feel, our energy, our emotions, which driving our behaviors, which drives, of course, our results. And so I said, okay, Saunders, I'm constantly asking them, well, be mindful of what you're thinking about. Be mindful of what your thoughts are. Because if I can help him be mindful of his thoughts, then I can show how what he thinks about is affecting or impacting what he's doing, which of course is affecting the results that he's achieving, right? Okay, so fast forward, dad's constantly bothering Saunders with this question every time he gets off the field. Hey, what were you thinking about? What were you thinking about? What were you thinking about? Right. And finally, he has a great game, one of his kind of turning points of his little 2-year soccer career as a 14-year-old. And I was like, Saunders, what were you thinking about? You're playing phenomenal out there. You're like super aggressive. You're in, you have a lot more touches on the ball. Like, what are you thinking about? And he says, every time I'm running down the field, when I don't have the ball, I just keep saying to myself, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball. Pretty cool, right? And I said, well, how does that compare to like when you first started playing? What were you thinking about then? Because you're playing very differently today. So I think it's interesting to know. So what were you thinking about then? He said, well, what I was thinking about them is everyone on the team is better than me. And whatever you do, don't get the ball in my general direction, right? I don't want the ball at all, because I'm going to make myself look like a fool, and I can't do it, right? So that's interesting, isn't it? So when he played weak, when he played kind of not in the game, his thoughts were don't give me the ball and everyone's better. But when he played the best game I've seen him play, his thoughts were I just want the ball. Give me the ball. I want the ball. So again, a fun tip for all of us right now is I want us to constantly be paying attention to what are you thinking about when you are successful, when you are achieving what is successful? Success means just achieving the results that you desire, right? So what are you thinking about when you're achieving the results that you desire? And what are you thinking about when you're not achieving the results that you desire? And then look at it and say, what are your behaviors? What were you doing during those times that you were achieving the results you desire versus not? And then how were you feeling? What were your emotions during those times? And all of that's going to be very helpful for you to again create the outcome and the results that you want to achieve when it comes to being the ultimate sales warrior. I also want you to know that what is the ultimate sales warrior? It's about living by three things: to lead, protect, and serve our customers. We want to lead our customers from a place of fear towards that life improvement. A leader is someone that we follow to a place who wouldn't go on your own, which is totally true based on today's interest rates and what's happening. We want to protect them from themselves, from their own fear, from maybe their significant others that tell them not to buy a home today. We want to protect them from the media. Right now, my simple definition of a good market versus a challenging market is: a good market is when it's socially acceptable to buy something. Well, a challenging market is when it's socially unacceptable to buy something. So, for example, like in the last couple of years, it was kind of cool to buy a house, right? Interest rates were really low. Everyone was doing it. And so if you told your friends and family, hey, I'm looking at buying a house, everyone else is doing it too. So it was very kind of a positive experience. Well, now the customers that you're speaking to, they just don't have that same kind of social encouragement, right? It's not exactly the coolest thing to do, maybe in their social circle right now. And so where do you come in? Well, you just need to fill the gap with that. So almost like let's almost look at it like a scale, right? So let's say that in order to buy from you today, they need to have like 100 units of energy or motivation to buy from you. They need 100 units of motivation to buy from you. And in a socially positive market like it was, let's say, a year ago, they come in with 80 units of motivation, and so you just need to kind of supply the other 20 units of motivation to buy from you. But what about today? Today they're coming in with maybe 50 units of motivation, and so you just need to fill the gap of the other 50, right? It's all about, in my opinion, seeing things as they are, not kind of better or worse than what they really are, right? And so again, today, what I'm going to do very quickly is I'm going to teach you again 6 strategies that are going to revolve around what to think about as it relates to these interest rates, what to do in order to give your customers that additional energy or motivation they need to buy from you, and what to say, right, to give them that clarity and that certainty. Because when certainty is lost, all is lost, and so we got to be able to do that. All right. So buckle up. Let's get going. We've got 6 things, so definitely let's take some notes. If I am someone who's speaking really fast and you can't keep up with everything I'm saying, that's totally okay. If you go to fpgnow.com/home builders, I'm sure we'll put that in the chat box here very quickly, as well as I'm sure something's about to flash on the screen. Here we go. It's flashing right there below, right? So go to fpgnow.com/home builders, and you can download a cheat sheet. That's always kind of cool, right? Who doesn't want a little cheat sheet? So we can download a cheat sheet and that can kind of go over some of the key things that we're talking about today. Again, if I'm speaking too fast, still take notes, but know that some of that stuff's going to be in there. Not all of it, but some of that stuff's going to be in there, at least the highlights, right? All right, here we go. Number one, write this down. The most important thing to remember is this is a universal problem, not a you problem or your home builder's problem, right? So this is a universal problem. This is not your personal problem or your builder's problem. Well, what does that mean, Jason? Well, it means everyone's going through the same thing. So don't take it so sensitively or so personally. Don't be charged around it. Instead, be a warrior. And a warrior always turns it around, right? A warrior always finds the advantage in everything. And so, for example, if this is what I would say, right? So this is how to think. I told you how to think about it. It's a universal problem, not a you problem. So detach yourself from it. That's how to think about it. Now, what should you do? What you should do is you should immediately embrace the concern, embrace the interest rate concern. And here's what to say, right? So what you would say is agree with them. Yeah, Mr. Customer, you're correct. Interest rates have gone up 2 points. They were 3.5%. Now they're up to 5.5%. So they have gone up. But since this is going to affect all the homes that you consider, not just ours, it's going to affect all the homes you consider, the older homes, other builders you're looking at, not just ours. It's even more important that you choose the best one overall. So again, I'll repeat it again. So, Mr. Customer, you're correct. Interest rates have gone up 2% in the last couple of months. And since this is going to affect all the homes you consider, not just ours, everyone's dealing with higher interest rates, older homes, other builders. It's even more important that you make the decision to find the best home overall. Okay. So turn it into an advantage for you. And then you could say, if you want to take it up a notch and unleash it even more and have a little more swagger, then you would say this. You would say, but the good news, Mr. Customer, is you're in good hands with me. I take this very seriously. I know this is a serious decision for you. This is a serious decision for me. And this is a serious career. This is not a job for me. This is a career. And you're in good hands with me. And I'll take you through a process to help you decide if this is a good overall decision for you to make based upon today's interest rates. So again, turn it into an advantage. Make you the advantage, the secret to be able to solve this problem today. That's number one. Number two, as interest rates rise, it will be even more important that you're their advisor, not their vendor, when it comes to where they spend their money. Okay, what does that mean? Well, if you've been doing this for several years, then back in the olden days, right, when people didn't have 3.5% interest rate, they didn't have this kind of funny monopoly money, gift cards from grandma that they could just buy anything they want. They had to be a little more strategic on like where to put money when it comes to their upgrades. And so what did you do back in the old days? Well, what you did is you were their advisor. You would help them, you would educate them on where they should spend their money when it comes to the options and upgrades in their house. You would be strategic for them. So you need to spend time with your purchasing manager, with your sales manager. You need to find out, what are the best upgrades when it comes to resale value, and so make sure you're communicating that to them and tell them that, hey, Mr. Customer, because interest rates are a little bit higher, you're gonna have to be more strategic on where you should and what upgrades you should put in your house. And so I'll help you with that. And so, definitely want to hear from you. What is your wish list? What are the things that are most important to you in your next home when it comes to upgrades, when it comes to additional features? And then what I'll do is I'll take that list and then we'll come back to our office and I'll sit down with you and I will show you based upon your budget of what you want to stay within and your affordability. I'll show you what the research says is the best place to put your money. All right. So again, turn it into an advantage that you have to offer them that they can't have anyone else. So again, you're going to think about it that way. You're going to do something different. And now that's the language that you're obviously going to use. Okay. Number three, I hope you're keeping it up. Number three, again, if this is too much, then definitely go to that fbgnow.com/home builders and make sure you download the cheat sheet. Number three, we need to understand exactly how much the higher interest rate impacts their monthly payment. Okay. No one understands what interest rates are. It's not no one, but most people, right? It's just too confusing for people. It's too much ambiguity and it creates too much uncertainty. So we need to speak in language they get. What they get is monthly payment. So do the research. But this is based on my research. So make sure that you go out there and prove this to be correct or incorrect. Let me give you kind of a basic guideline, right? So for every interest rate point, the interest rates go up, right? It increases the monthly payment $50 per 100,000. $50 per 100,000, right? And so, for example, if you have a $500,000 house that you are selling, and interest rates go up 1% higher than where they are today, it will increase the monthly payment $250 a month. Okay, if it's $1 million, then obviously that's $500 a month. If interest rates go up 2 points, then instead of for that $500,000 house, it'll be 500, and for the $1 million house, it'll be 1,000, right? So just make sure that you can communicate it in a way that the customer again understands. And I would ask them that, right? So I would say, well, Mr. Customer, you're correct. Interest rates are higher, and what we're really talking about here is we're talking $250 more a month than based upon the higher rates, right? So put it in terms that they understand, and then ask them, are you aware of that? Has anyone sat down with you and educated you or explained or shown you the impact of interest rates and how it affects your actual payment, right? That's important to know. Now, some of you are thinking, yeah, but Jason, right now, interest rates have gone up, already 2 points. And so based upon what I'm selling, it's $1,000 more a month than what it was 2 months ago. And Like that's a lot for people. I understand. I'm going to show you how to sell through that here in a second. I'm going to show you how to sell through $1,000 more a month. But we need to see things as they are and not better or worse than they are. We need to stop talking about interest rates and start talking about payments. And now that's an easier thing for us to be able to attack or handle, okay, which is the key. All right. Number four. Number four. The good news is that your buyers are used to paying 18% in the 80s. And so it's important to make sure that you have the right basis of comparison. So when it comes to persuasion, I'm going to teach you something that my amazing father-in-law, Blaine, taught me, and that is selling is all about basis of comparison, right? And so, but you want to make sure you have the proper basis of comparison. Well, so for example, you don't want them to compare to the 3.5% that they could have got, and the fact that today's 5.5 and it was 3.5. Instead, you want the basis of comparison to be like 18% in the 80s, or when I bought my first home back, 20 years ago, it was like 6.25, and that was a great rate 20 years ago. And so, how do you want to do this? Here's the secret. This is the funniest thing when you get this. It's so funny, is that customers actually like to brag about how bad of a deal they had in the past. Like it's the funniest thing, right? So if you actually ask them, "Hey, I'm curious, what's the most you ever paid in your, paid from an interest rate perspective in your life?" They'll tell you, "Oh, when I was a kid, I paid 18% or da da da," or I remember the times when it was 8%, or like it's almost like they like to brag about the bad deal they got, right? Well, that's an important thing for you to know because you want them, they will own whatever they say creates power over their life, right? So you want them to say what their rate was, and then here's your response back. Your response back is, well, at least it's not that. That's all you got to say. That's the magic phrase that you want to use. At least it's not that. And that's all you need to say. Now, what do you not want to do? What you don't want to do is what sometimes I think my competition teaches, and what I think we end up doing that ends up hurting the sell. And that's we come back like we come back kind of like an argumentative child. You know what I mean? Like we come back kind of argumentative, right? And so what I mean is the customer immediately says, yeah, I mean, rates are 5.5%. I think they're going to go up to 6.5% in the future, or whatever they say, And then we immediately come back combative or argumentative. We say something like, yeah, but at least they're not like 18% in the 80s. And we kind of like talk back to them. And we don't want to talk back to them, right? We hate when our children talk back to us. None of it really helps things. And so we don't want to talk back to them and be that argumentative kind of way. And so just don't do that. So instead, if they say interest rates are 5.5%, then you just immediately respond back with, you're right, they are. You could do the script that I said earlier, and then you could also add this script. You could say, "I'm curious, what's the most you've ever paid in the past?" Now, let's say that they are a first-time home buyer. Well, then you would say, "Hey, what's the most that your parents have ever paid?" And then again, they're going to say it, they're going to own it. Now it's power over their life, and then you're going to easily just respond back, "Well, at least it's not that." And now your basis of comparison makes the 5.5% rate way better than what they could have paid long time ago compared to the 3.5% they missed out on. Okay. Basis of comparison is everything. So make sure that you're doing that again in the right way, and you're coming across very downstream around it, and having that strong fortitude and emotional intelligence. Okay. Number five is you need to be really strong around your selling message with your preferred lender. So you need to be really strong with your selling message and your preferred lender. So here's the language that I want you to say, okay? You need to be able to say something like this. Mr. Customer, good news is we've got an exclusive partnership with XYZ Mortgage Company that allows you to blank that other builders don't have access to. Let me say it again. We have an exclusive partnership with XYZ Mortgage Company that allows you to blank that other builders don't have access to. Okay. So the reason why this is so important is because they need to know that you have an entire team looking out for them, and that you have some sort of advantage that will give them certainty if and when they choose you, they want to be able to see that. And so if you don't have that exclusive partnership, you don't have something that can make you you can say that with truth and integrity, then of course you can't say it. So instead, you want to do is you want to go talk to your lender and you want to make sure that your company has some sort of deal. Like they need to give you something that, again, only you have working with this company to make that sentence true. I do not want you to say anything that's lying. So again, make sure you do have something to offer them that, again, makes it exclusive partnership with XYZ mortgage company that allows us special access to blank. It allows you that other people don't have access to. And we'll be able to offer that for you today. So again, it creates that additional value in partnership. All right, number 6, and this, sales warriors, is by far the most important one. So again, just to kind of review here so far, right? We talked about it's all about making sure we understand what we're thinking about, what we're doing, and what we're saying. And we need to be aware of that. And we need to be aware of what top performers are thinking, doing, and saying. And we need to be aware of what we're thinking, doing, and saying that's getting us the results we desire, and what we're thinking and doing and saying that's getting us the results that we don't desire. We got to be able to understand all of that, right? So, and so far, we talked about the most important thing is it's a universal problem, not a you problem. And so turn it into an advantage. We also talked about that it's important to be number 2, that to be their advisor around the options and upgrades that they need to be putting in their house. Number 3, we talked about how it's important to understand how the interest rate impacts their monthly payment. We talked about that, and make sure you speak in payment terms, which is important. Number 4, we talked about that it's important about having basis of comparison, that we need them to compare to a higher rate than what's currently today, not the lower rate of what they missed out on. So we talked about that. And number 5, we talked about how it's important to have some sort of exclusive partnership with your mortgage company, and again, be impeccable with our words to make sure that we're saying something that's providing that, again, that certainty and courage and hope in them that we have. All right, number 6. Number 6 is we need to run towards the thing that most people normally avoid. And that is, we're going to bring up this conversation in advance, and we're going to bring up the elephant in the room in advance, and we're going to talk to them about it. Why? I'm going to teach you a concept called duplication, or reverse psychology, another word for it, or another phrase would be threat desensitization. Okay, so let me give you some kind of concepts around that. So this will make sense around this. So think about the first time you saw a scary movie, right? And like for me, when I was a kid, it was Freddy Krueger. You remember Freddy Krueger? It was like Where's Waldo's like evil twin brother, with that crazy sweater, and he had the glove and with the knives, and I mean, I don't know what sicko created that monster, but I was super terrified of Freddy Krueger. But now, after I've seen the movie multiple times and I've gotten older, of course, and it's just not scary anymore, right? Well, that's the power of threat desensitization. The more you kind of experience something, the more it just doesn't have a charge over you anymore. If we run towards what normal people avoid, then again, it becomes not a problem. If we avoid something, whatever we resist persists. So that's the philosophy of it. Another example. Think about something in your life that you've done that was really scary. So maybe like the first time you went ziplining and it was really scary, and then all of a sudden you did it over and over again. It's not so scary. Or first time you learned how to drive a car, it was really scary, and then after you do it over and over again, it's not so scary anymore. We have a rule in our house, and that is that if a kid does something for the first time and it becomes kind of a traumatic experience, then we want them to do it over and over again to make it less traumatic for them. So Mary Jane, 8 years old at the time, and we took her ziplining, and she goes ziplining the first time and just starts bawling, right? And so I, held her tight, and I said, "Hey, Mary Jane, I can't unfortunately leave you in this state because right now, you're going to be like traumatized on the idea of ziplining. You'll never do it again. You're never going to remember it again. But the rest of your life, you're not going to want to do it. You don't know why, and it's probably going to affect other things like roller coasters and all kinds of other adventurous stuff. And so we're going to have to do it again." And so she's not real happy about this. And so, but she does it the second time, cries, but cries less. Third time, cries less. Fourth, cries less. Fifth, cries less. Sixth, she doesn't cry at all on the 6th time. And I said, "Mary Jane, this is great. We've neutralized it, right? We've duplicated it over and over again. We've duplicated it. And so because we've duplicated it, we can leave. But what I'd like to do, Mary Jane, if it's okay with you, is go one more time. Why? because maybe we can turn this into a positive experience for you. So we go one more time and she cracks a smile. And now we've kind of passed the hurdle here, right? So now this is a positive experience for her. And to this day, Mary Jane's 13 years old and she's like a zip lining queen, right? She does like the crazy stuff. She does like swan dives off of it. Just she's nuts when it comes to zip lining. But think about if as her dad, I allowed her just to kind of be traumatized with that experience of that, right? Then she would have really missed out on a tremendous amount of like potential joy and adventure and kind of fun the rest of her life. And she wouldn't even have known why that was the case. I mean, so Mary and I, when we're working with top executives, top performers, top sales performers, majority of the stuff that we work with them on, we unleash, we remove those fears in their life that are holding them back from being the performers they desire. It usually is some kind of childhood trauma, some kind of thing from the past that we have to, it was like hidden, buried, and suppressed. We got to bring it back up, right? And kind of run towards it and deal with it. They just would have ran towards it and deal with it when it happened, then it wouldn't have robbed them of so much of their happiness the rest of their life, right? And so why am I saying this with you? Well, I'm sharing this with you because this is the same thing that you're now going to do with your customers when they walk into the door. Okay, so when they come in and see you, you're going to bring up this whole interest rate pretty early on, and this is where you would do it in the process. Okay, this is how you would do it. So step one, you get position of strength. You find out what's important to them about why they're there. You find out what. Step two, you find out, we call it the Discovery 360 in Warrior Selling. So find out, what they like about their current home, what they don't like, the other builders they're considering, who their favorite is, why they haven't chosen them so far, what they're looking for out of us. Step three is you summarize it back to them. Mr. Customer, it sounds like you don't like your current home because of blank. What you're really wanting is blank. You saw XYZ builder, you thought they were the best so far, but they don't have blank. And if you could accomplish all that today, is that really kind of what you're looking for overall? You're summarizing it back to them. They say yes. Then what you do is you categorize them. We call it category close, but a simple way to do that is you say, hey, great. So based upon that, are you definitely making a change today? Are you definitely going to buy something different and leave your current home, to get all of that, right? And then at that moment, they're probably going to say, not sure. And then you're going to say, no problem. Well, tell me specifically the area of uncertainty that's holding you back from buying today. So you got to ask that question. So at that moment, they're going to say, I'm just concerned about interest rates. I'm concerned about how expensive things are getting. I'm concerned about what's really going on. And then you're going to, again, do the scripts that I've already told you. So you're going to do the scripts and you're going to say, no problem, but let's make sure I understand what we're dealing with, Mr. Customer. So if you were to buy this home from us, it's going to take, let's say 9 months to build, whatever your build time is, take 9 months to build. And so how much do you think rates will go up compared to where they are today? So right now they're at 5.5%. By the time you close on your home, do you think rates are going to go up a quarter point, a half a point, or maybe even as high as a point? Now, I'm doing what's called a triple bind option here. Do not ask an open-ended question to something like this, because an open-ended question, you're only going to get something potentially negative out of them. You don't want them to say, I don't know, they can go as high as 10%. You don't want something like that because that's going to be too hard for you to potentially overcome. So you want to control the narrative. And you want to give them options. So Mr. Customer, no problem. So based upon that time frame, how much do you think rates are going to go up above where they currently are at 5.5%? Do you think they go up a quarter point, half a point, or as high as maybe a point? Okay, you're controlling the narrative. So let's say they pick a point. So then you're going to say, no problem. So based upon our average price here, let's say you're a $500,000 house. So based on our average price here, we're talking $250 more a month than what you would expect to pay today. So I'm curious, how do you feel about paying $250 a month more than you expected to pay if you were to buy today? Okay. You're thinking, Jason, you really want me to ask that question? I do, because I need them to start the duplication process. I need us to threat desensitize the issue around it. So I'm going to ask it early. Okay. So I'm going to ask them that question and they're going to say something like this. They're going to say, hell no. And you're going to respond back, no problem. That's great, Mr. Customer. The last thing I'd want you to do is have buyer's remorse. The last thing I want you to do is to buy something that you don't feel from us is worth what we're charging. And so totally get it. So why don't we do this? Let's just go through the experience here. Let me show you what we have. And I'll keep checking in with you and see if it makes sense for you to spend $250 more than you expected to pay. That's it. Okay. So now you've started the duplication process. So then you're now going to show them a floor plan, right? You're going to say, hey, Mr. Customer, you said that you're looking for a home that had the following things. You don't like the following things in your current home. And we realized that now you had this extra bonus room, you had the second room for your kids, and you could do this and this and this. And so, Mr. Customer, if you could get this home, we had to pay $250 more than you expected to pay. How would you feel about that? Okay. And the customer's probably going to say no, but no is way better than hell no, isn't it? So we're making progress here, right? Progress equals happiness. And so you're going to respond back. No problem. No worries. Definitely don't want you to buy something that you don't feel, again, is worth it. Let's keep going. No problem. Let's keep going, right? You're going to be downstream. You're going to go with the next thing. And you're going to now show them a home site. Hey, Mr. Customer, you said that, you wanted a backyard that had the following things, and you don't like your current backyard because of blank. And we realized that, this backyard is great because of the following things. And you really said you liked it. And so if you could have this home site, this backyard, we had to pay $200 more than you expected to pay. How would you feel about it? And they're probably going to say something like, probably not. That's okay, right? So far, we've gone from hell no to probably not. Again, we're making progress. And so, hey, that sounds great. No worries. Again, let's keep going. Okay, then you're going to talk about the neighborhood. Hey, Mr. Customer, you said that you wanted to wanted to live in a neighborhood that had the following things. I drove you around. You saw this. You lit up when you get blank. You said it's so much better in your current neighborhood because of this. And I talked about the other neighborhoods that you were considering. You said you liked it more because of that. If you could have this neighborhood, but pay $250 more than you expected to pay, how would you feel about that? Now they're probably going to say, I'm not sure. And I think you know the drill now. You're going to say, no problem. Let's keep going. You're going to talk about the part of town. You're going to talk about you as a builder. You're going to talk about your superintendent. You're going to talk about the relationship you have with your preferred lender. You're going to talk about you and being an advisor for them and holding their hand, and guiding them as their Sherpa all along the way throughout the process. You're going to keep talking about all these different things that they get to get. And each time you're going to go back to it and say, Mr. Customer, again, if you could have this, and you had to pay $250 more than you expected to pay, how would you feel about it now? And each time you ask the same question over and over again, it's going to go from hell no to probably not, to I'm not sure, to maybe, to possibly, to probably, to I think so, to yes, to it's a no-brainer. And now you're going to move them forward to buy a home from you today over all alternatives. Now, if for some reason, let's say you've done this a lot and you feel like you've only gotten to maybe a probably or I think so, you really want to take it even one step further, I think it's best to do the overall summary close. So what you would do here is you would just kind of summarize the overall journey, right? And you say, Mr. Customer, I know I've asked you this question over and over again, but let me just kind of conclude with this. And that is, when you first came in, you said you didn't like your current home because of the following reasons. And, I showed you blank floor plan. You said you loved it because of this. Then we talked about the home site. You said you loved the backyard because of this. We talked about, why you should buy one of our homes versus an older home. And you agreed that this was better because of blank. We talked about us versus the other builders you were considering. You said this is better because of blank. We talked about the part of town. You said the part of town is better because of blank. The community is better because of blank. Working with us as a builder is better because of blank. The superintendent, me, so considering all of that, if you bought today and by the time you closed, you had to pay $250 more than you expected to pay, but you got all of that, how would you feel about it? By doing that one last one, that should be enough for any of that kind of fearful residue to be duplicated or desensitized. And at that moment, they probably should say yes, or it's a no-brainer. Okay. This is not a new concept, right? This is a concept we do all the time. Let me share something with you. I didn't know this until Mary educated me that when you spend over $1,000 for a purse, it magically gets rebranded to what's called a handbag. I didn't know that. I thought they're all purses. I also didn't know people spend more than $1,000, more than a few $100s on a handbag. I didn't know that, or a purse. I didn't know that. But what's interesting is it's been kind of desensitized for me now, right? Now that as long as I've known Mary and been with her and all the beautiful handbags that she has, it's not a thing anymore, right? It's just what's expected. I mean, think about, those of you who spent $200 or $100 on a pair of going out jeans, right? It's just once you do it, you kind of just get used to it and it becomes your new normal. It becomes with it. Think about all of a sudden you buy some kind of luxury car. And the first time you bought some like Cadillac Escalade and it cost you like 100 grand or something, or something that was just way out of your paradigm. Then it's became your new normal. It's become something that you totally thought was foolish and ridiculous, just becomes something that you just do now. It just becomes your new normal. That is a normal process that people go through. And what I'm teaching you right now is I need you to be the one that takes them through that process so you can speed it up for them. They're going to go through that process when it comes to interest rates and having to spend more money to buy your house today. They're going to do that with or without you, as the U2 song so greatly says. But as a great sales warrior, you want to be the one that does it with them and speeds it up. Because if you're the one doing it with them, then you're the one that's going to reap the benefits of it. Now, here's a word of caution for you as we can kind of conclude this. Here's a word of caution for you is if you decide to start this journey of running towards the thing that most people avoid, and you bring up, hey, Mr. Customer, what's the number one concern you have? They say interest rates. You take them through this duplication process that I've taught you today. And let's say you take them from hell no to maybe. And then all of a sudden, right, you let the customer go. Where did you let them go to? You let them go to your competitor down the street. And now your competitor has the gift, the layup that you just gave them of a prospect now starting at a maybe state versus a hell no state. And all they got to do is take them from a maybe to a yes. So don't start the journey with them and then hand them off to your biggest competitor. Don't do all the work and let your competitor make all the money off of your work. Don't do that. So again, make sure you take them all the way. Another tip to make sure you know of, and that is be someone that brings this up early. Why? Because, normally, right, the Gen Pop salesperson, the average salesperson, remember, think, do, and say, what they normally think about, do, and say is they don't bring that stuff up until the end. They spent 45 minutes, maybe an hour with them, showing them a home and everything that's going on. And at the very end, they might ask them, hey, Mr. Customer, I'm curious, what would hold you back from buying a home today? Or what concerns do you have? Then all of a sudden they tell you interest rates. Then now you've got maybe 5 minutes in your closing argument now to try to convince them why it makes sense to buy today. Well, you can't duplicate them in 5 minutes. So you need the time. The time is your ally here, right? The time is your friend. The time is your ally. It's not your enemy. So you need more time in order to duplicate it properly, which is why you want to bring it up early. If you wait till the very end, then it's just you've lost the whole game, and they're not going to come back. You're not going to talk to them again. It's just not going to work. Okay, so those are two big tips. Bring it up early. Make sure you keep bringing up the question over and over again. Tell me how you feel about it now. Tell me how you feel about it now. Tell me how you feel about it now. You're going to keep saying it over and over again with a new perspective, and you're going to see the duplication go down. I think you should make it a game. I think everything in life should be like a video game. The video game you want to play is be taking notes, maybe on some sort of registration card or however you're taking notes, and write what they say. So if they say hell no, that's great, right? Hell no. Just know that it's part of the journey. It's part of the process. And every time they say a different word, write that word down. So you're playing a game with yourself, knowing that this is just how it's supposed to work. Jason told me this is how it's supposed to work. This is how it works. And just know that you're just one step closer, one word closer to something, again, a little bit easier for them to say. Okay. All right. Again, in life, we need to realize that there are the circumstances that we have, and then there's the meaning we give it, right? And so right now, if interest rates have gone up 2%, that's the circumstance. The meaning that you could be giving it is either one, you could say, man, this is happening to me, and I got to change careers now, and man, I'm going to sell so much less than I've ever sold before, and I got to figure out how to change my budget and my requirements and all kinds of stuff, and my builder better do something about it, right? That's the meaning that you give it. Or the meaning you can give it is what I taught you today, which is use it as an advantage for you, right? Turn it into an advantage. If you turn it into an advantage, then you have the opportunity to sell more than you've ever sold before, because now you're going to be the light in the dark tunnel. Now you're going to be the primary source of confidence, motivation, open certainty. Now you're going to be someone that stands out. Now you're going to be that warrior that leads, protects, and serves them, right? Remember, a leader takes them to a place they want to go on their own. Protect them from that conversation that you're not present to, that's telling them not to do it. And you're serving them, going, hey, what's important to you about this? Why are they trying to buy a house? There's obviously a reason they're there. It's not about the house. It's about something else, right? So you got to figure out what that is, and that's what you want to focus on to see if it's worth it for them. Okay. All right. So again, go to fbgnow.com/homebuilders to get our cheat sheet. And if you're interested in our Warrior Selling program, Warrior Selling is listed as number 2 in the world. How cool is that? Number 2 in the world of all sales training programs. That's not just in home building, even though I came from home building. That's in all industries. So we're number 2, beating out Challenger, Spin, Solution, Integrity, like you name it. We've beat them all out. And our coaching program is listed as number 1 in the world for sales leadership development. And so you can check us both out. We've got 90-day programs for both, which is pretty cool. 90-day programs for both that might be exactly what you need right now. It's all via Zoom. You're working with our trainers, creating custom scripting, working on what you think about, what you say, and what you do, both on the sales warrior side as well as the leadership side. We can help you with both of those and give you the advantage that you are desiring right now in your career. All right, run towards what other people normally avoid and go sell something. All right, talk to you soon.